Hello, beautiful people, and welcome back. I'm Supreme Verdicts, practicing attorney by day and a magic strategist by night. After a long day of working on the rules of law, I come home to master the laws of magic. Today, we are talking about Marvel's Spider-Man, the new magic set that is coming out very, very shortly. If you're watching this is coming out right before pre-release and right before the arena release. As you can see over here by Fleam, through the Omenpaths, and our first bullet point is that this is going to be an arena separate release, standard legal, but different card art, different names, same card text. The cards will be exactly the same. They're just going to be different because of some licensing issues with Spider-Man, likely Marvel Snap or some other digital licensing rights, similar to how we had in the Avengers movies. Spider-Man all of a sudden came into the Marvel universe, but we still haven't necessarily seen all the X-Men come in, but we've seen a little bit of like something here and there. Just licensing rights, who owns the IP. That's a whole other issue that I'm happy to go into as an attorney, actually, at some point. It's really cool. We'll then talk about Pick 2 Draft. This is a new draft format that's going to be coming to Arena because this is a smaller set, and this is kind of their way of messing around with it so that things are a little bit more equal. It'll be a 4-player draft where you pick 2 cards for each of your draft picks. Next, we'll go through some combat tricks at common and uncommon, as well as just general flash and instant speed things to be aware of for your upcoming pre-release or for your very first few drafts. Just things to keep in the back of your mind, some cards to pay attention to. And finally, dealing with difficult permanents. What do you do when your opponent has a soul stone across from you? How are you going to handle that? Just kind of flagging the fact that draft is balanced, it's built to be balanced, and there's always going to be some way to handle things. And of course, our Lord and Savior Fleam, Gobin's Creation, is over here, and Fleam would like you to like, comment, and subscribe, so please go ahead and do that. Alright, through the Omenpaths, like I said, we're going to have a digital only set, or not digital only, but a digital set that's separate from the paper set. As you can see here, Amazing Spider-Man is Bant card, 4/4, Vigilance Reach. Same thing as Surus, Silk Tech Vanguard, which is the Bant 4/4 Vigilant Reach, etc., etc. And instead of web slinging for Bant, it's going to be in web for Bant. Again, just some of these licensing issues and what words they can or can't use. I will say, for Through the Omenpaths, a lot of the art has been really pretty, and it's been getting a lot of hype, despite it being really annoying, needing to learn the cards almost twice over in a lot of ways, or just changing my heuristics. Rather than think of the card from the name or from the art, I now have to think about it from the rules text perspective and what it does, which is just a little bit more challenging because it's not something I'm particularly used to. That being said, there's a cool list on Through the Omenpaths. The idea is that these are cards being taken from across Magic the Gathering's multiverse. So you'll see here, what is it, Surus, looks like they're from New Capenna, based on some of the art. Maybe I'm wrong. I could very well be wrong. In any case, a lot of them you can tell very clearly it's from Edge of Eternities, it's from Theros, it's from Amonkhet, it's from the Strixhaven world, Arcavios, and there's even on the Magic Wiki a list that goes through card by card and what setting they are supposed to be from, which is really nice. It's kind of fun to see where they're all from. Pick 2 Draft is different. It's not like absurdly different. It's still a regular draft format, but you only have 4 players in your pod, including you. And with picking 2 cards each time, there's different strategies that are a little bit more viable, such as color signaling, letting them know what you want to be in or what isn't available. Cutting off a color is better. Hate drafting is possible, but again, not recommended for Arena because you're not playing against the people in your pod. Not recommended generally because it's kind of a waste of a draft pick. That being said, if you're interested to see what it looks like mechanically and just see start of the early layers of peeling back some of the strategy with it regarding signaling and what to pass and what not to pass, check out one of my recent videos, the new draft format coming to Arena, Ramp Coma is the thumbnail. This was a Magic the Gathering Foundations draft that was pick 2. They did this as a midweek Magic event a few weeks ago and realized this was something that was coming to Arena, so might as well try it out and try to get an understanding for it early on. I think my strategy was to just kind of go for the powerful cards at first and prioritize things that I could cast until I noticed I got Pick Up Coma, and then it was kind of a lock-in, how can I cast this as best as I can? Green ended up being fairly open, and I was able to just take a lot of good green cards, have a couple of strong blue cards to back that up, and ended up with a mostly green deck, which was interesting because red was also very available from what I recall. But check it out, you can kind of see the signals become very clear at a certain point, which I think will lead to some interesting drafting experiences. But here's what we're here for. The meat and potatoes, some common instants to keep an eye out for as you attend your pre-release event. And if you're drafting on Arena, I do have a handy dandy. I'll be pulling up the Through the Omenpaths version of the card as we talk through it. So we have Scorpion Sting for 2, 1 in a black. Instant, target creature gets -3/-3. This is your nuts and bolts removal spell. This is going to be good offensively. It's going to be good defensively if you need to. It's never as good defensively. You've heard my spiel on the last Combat Tricks episode. I won't go super in depth on some of that strategy here. All in all, be wary of a combat trick that might blow this out if you're using it as a removal spell. If you're using this in combat, try to be attacking, but it's a great way to mess up a double block. We have Grow Extra Arms, which costs 1 in green, but only a green if it targets a spider. There are plenty of spiders in this set. Spiders and villains, those are the two big ones. Target creature gets +4/+4 until end of turn. Notably, no trample, no reach, no extra ability to it. It is just +4/+4. This is giant growth. It has come back. It's 1 green mana for +3/+3, but here, there's a little bit more nuance to it with the spider theme, so you'll get +4/+4, and it might cost 1 less sometimes. We have Thwip coming up, +2/+2, or Lively Leap. I really like the Lively Leap art. I think that's really cute, seeing the little spider jump off the bird. What is that, Bloomburrow, maybe? I don't know. Target creature gets +2/+2 and gains flying until end of turn. This is a very classic card. We've seen something like this before. Usually it's either +1/+3 and flying, or +2/+2 and flying and reach, or some weird combination of abilities that gives evasion or gives it blocking capabilities. And if it's a spider, you gain 2 life. Nice little boost. Nothing too special. A lot of the cards and commons in general in this set are very nuts and bolts without getting too fancy. However, these next two are a little fancier. We have Unstable Experiment. 2 mana, target player draws a card, then up to 1 target creature you control connives. The target player drawing a card is interesting. I'm not sure why it's phrased exactly like that. I guess you can have someone draw out the last card in their deck, go for the mill win if you really want. But this effectively is draw 2, discard a card, and then potentially put a 1/1 counter on a creature, which is really good for 2 mana. Now, if you don't have a creature out, this is a much worse card. It becomes 2 mana to draw a card. It's cycling itself as a cantrip. It's not even a good cantrip, but for 2 mana to draw a card and then to connive as well, it gives you the more options for if you're going to be discarding a land and just trying to get an extra card draw, or if you're trying to put that 1/1+1/+1 counter on a creature in the middle of a combat situation, whether you're blocking or being blocked, trying to get in that last bit of damage. Not to mention the connive synergies that are just across the board in this draft environment, with blue having a lot of connive, but also red and black both having the mayhem mechanic of casting things from the graveyard. I think this is going to be a really good combat trick. I'm not sure how amazing it's going to be. Combat tricks are always based on how good the creatures are, but I like this one a lot. I think it's pretty versatile. Spectacular Tactics is another versatile one that I'm a fan of. 2, 1 in a white for a choose 1. I love these modal spells. Put 1/1 counter on a creature. It gains hexproof until end of turn. Just a solid protection spell. It's hexproof and a +1/+1 counter for 2 mana. You can't go wrong. That's something that is always going to be valuable in white and in draft. The modal part of it is what really sends it over the top, because the other option is to destroy target creature with power 4 or greater. We've seen modal spells like this with power 4 or greater on 2 mana variants as well as 3 mana variants, and there was even Jack the Giant Killer. No, I think Jack the Giant Killer was 3 mana. So 2 and 3 mana variants, but rarely paired with a hexproof situation. There is an indestructible one, and that one's very strong as well. I have that in a few of my Brawl decks. I think I've played those on this channel as well, but I like this card a lot. I think the versatility of it makes it particularly powerful as both protection or removal specifically of a creature, rather than just something like enchantment or artifact, which is still good, but comes up a lot less often. Amazing Acrobatics. Sorry, the Drix interception, the complete change of the name gets me for a minute. You can either counter a spell or tap one or two creatures. The idea of doing both is really good. If you cast a spell before combat, be wary of this. If your opponent counters it and then taps two of your creatures, and then they can attack you for lethal, or they thwart your alpha strike. Something to be aware about. Normally a counter spell wouldn't make this cut, but the tapping one or two target creatures does come up, especially if you use it quote unquote offensively, not actually like to chip in damage, but to tap a creature. That way they can then web slinging or enweb it in order to get some value with their web slinging cards. Whoosh or Snatchback is a classic. We have 2 mana, return a non-land permanent to its owner's hand. If you pay an extra 2, you get to draw a card. This one is, again, it's a classic for a reason. It's always going to be good. If you can kick it, perfect. You draw a card and you can either protect something or you can remove something. It is incredibly flexible. Love this card. And Shock, another classic. We'll see how Shock plays out. I haven't taken a deep look into what the toughness is of various creatures. Shock can be a very, very strong removal spell in draft formats, but it has also been power crept out a little bit by 1 and 2 mana cards just generating so much value when they first enter. We'll see. Uncommon instance. We're going to jump right in just to kind of get through this. After all, it's more important that you are aware of what's out there than anything else. We have Terrific Team Up. 3 and a green. It costs 2 mana less, though, if you control a permanent with mana value 4 or greater. This does not have to be a creature that you are fighting with. However, predictably, this is a fight spell. 1 or 2 target creatures you control each get +1/+0 until the end of turn. They each deal damage equal to their power to target creature an opponent controls. These are more expensive fight spells, which makes me not like them, of course, but then I do always like the fact that it's 1 or 2 target creatures. Especially if you have something with mana value 4 or greater, chances are it's fairly big. If you can get 2 creatures to double up in terms of that fight, Terrific Team Up in terms of that fight, it's usually a lot better if the opponent were to try to just completely blow you out by killing your creature in response, which is the best way to counter a fight spell, is to remove the creature that's doing the fighting. This will anyway make it through and just be able to completely knock them out, because you have a second creature that's adding that much damage. And of course, also if you have 2 smaller creatures, this is a good catch-up kind of mechanic that you can kill one of their bigger things with your 2 smaller things if you need to. And that's nice versatility. I will point out here, just as a fun little flag, there is a rare combat trick, a rare green removal spell. It's not a combat trick. Kraven's Last Hunt, that for the first time ever, we saw in Edge of Eternities, the green fight spell that allowed you to fight a creature from warp, which was pretty cool. Now we have the Kraven one that lets you fight a creature from a creature card in your graveyard. So green's fight spells are getting a little bit more versatile, which is pretty sick. We have Secret Identity next. Here's another choose one. I love the modality. Until end of turn, target creature becomes a 1/1 citizen with hexproof. Pretty good. Just your classic 1/1. You can't touch this. It doesn't untap it or give it a +1/+1 counter like some of the other variants we've seen in the past, but the modality makes up for it, I think. Because it's also the 1/1, target creature becomes a 3/4 with flying and vigilance. Now, in blue, again, we do have the connive theme going on here, so there is a good chance that if you can get some counters on your creature and then you turn it into a 3/4 with flying and vigilance, that can get in for a pretty nasty punch. Generally, those effects have not been too powerful in the past, just making something a 3/4, but notably this does give flying and vigilance, and that might be enough to take this card over the edge, especially because it has the protection option baked into it. We have Sudden Strike, your very classic 1 in white, instant destroy target attacking or blocking creature. Not much to be said about here. This is a good card. It's not a great card. It can't remove a problem permanent that just accumulates value and that your opponent is scared to attack with because they don't want to fall for one of these tricks. But all in all, it's still a fine removal spell. School Days or Outsmart the Amateur. I just include this one because it was the only one that wasn't a combat trick, so I was like, I might as well just throw it in. Draw 3 cards, counter target spell, draw a card for 5 mana. This is expensive. I think the counter spell variation of it's always going to be preferred to remove an opponent's spell and then also draw a card. Although the draw 3 at instant speed for 5 mana is pretty great. It's Lorien revealed, but you can't island cycle it, and it's at instant speed. That's a fine trade-off, I think, to make. The card's okay. I don't think I would pick this highly. Again, I'm not a huge fan of the double pips in a pick two draft format, but we'll see how things go. Spots Portal. This is a cool one. I like this card a lot. 2 and a black for an instant, put target creature on the bottom of its owner's library. You lose 2 life unless you control a villain. So it doesn't remove it in the sense that it sends it to the graveyard or to exile, but it puts it on the bottom of the library, which is effectively removing it in the sense that from the graveyard, you can always reanimate. You can always cast one of those spells that gets something back. The Spots Portal gets rid of it. It is a Chaos Warp in a lot of ways, and I think that's pretty good. Chaos Warp for creatures specifically, coming to standard format. I think this card will end up becoming a staple in a lot of areas. It doesn't exile, so it's not the best of the best, but it's pretty good putting it on the bottom of the owner's library. It makes it really hard to get to. And finally, we have Wisecrack, which is 2 and a red, instant. Target creature deals damage equal to its power to itself. If that creature is attacking, it deals 2 damage to that creature's controller. This is an interesting one. It's going to play out much more as a combat trick. You might need to block with a 1/1 or something that can bounce off of this, but deal that tiny bit of damage left in order to kill it. You're going to want to remember to put on full control and cast this spell. For example, if you have a 2/3 and they're attacking with a 2/3, you're going to block with your 2/3. You're going to allow damage to go through, full control, as after damage has gone through. So your 2/3 is marked with 2 damage, their 2/3 is marked with 2 damage. Then you cast Wisecrack before the end of combat. If you cast it before the end of combat, before your second main phase, so in the end of combat phase, that works too, then the creature will deal 2 damage to itself, killing itself, and you'll get the 2 damage to their controller. Otherwise, you'd still kill it, but it's slightly better to get that little bit of a 2 damage buffer. We have some flash permanents, a couple of crappy ones and a couple of good ones. We'll start with the crappy real quick. Doc Ock's Henchman is 3 mana 2/1 flash. Whenever it attacks, it connives. Just beware. There is a 3 mana 2/1 creature that can come in out of nowhere and mess up your blocks as much as possible. It's a villainous thing to do, but of course these are both villain cards, which makes sense. Now when it attacks, it connives. That's actually pretty cool, I think. It is still a 2/1. It's not particularly strong, but it's good to be aware of. And of course, Swarm Being of Bees. We can be bees. In any case, Swarm Being of Bees is 3 mana 2/2 flash with flying. Slightly important, as you'll see there's some 1/1s that fly at a later in just a minute. And it also has Mayhem, which means if you discard it, you can then cast it, which has all sorts of benefits of they'll discard the card to get some kind of value and then cast it for 1 black mana, and then they'll have a 3 mana 2/2 flying all of a sudden on your turn and you just attack. You don't know what to do. Know that it's a possibility. How common it is, well, I mean, they're commons, so this will happen, but know that it's a possibility and be aware of it. Now for some of the cooler cards, we got Flash Thompson, Spiderfanner, Basil, Cabaretti, Loudmouth. These are so funny, the changes. Flash Thompson is a 2 mana 2/2 with Flash, of course. When Flash Thompson enters, here's the important part. Choose one or both. Tap a target creature or untap a target creature. Flash Thompson is a good flash trick, and I qualify as a combat trick because on the one hand, it can enter and all of a sudden give you pseudo vigilance, which is pretty nice. It can enter and tap down that important blocker an opponent has as you're trying to swing in for lethal. And of course, on defensive side, it can jump in and untap your biggest creature such that you can then block with it, and as well as tapping down whatever your opponent left up as a blocker for the next turn for you to be able to get in. It's a very, very versatile card at 2 mana, and with Flash, I think it is something to keep an eye out for in combat. But I don't think it's the best one here. Robotics Mastery, and here you can see the Edge of Eternity's art for the Omenpaths version. This card, I'm not a fan of auras. I think auras in general are bad, in draft especially, but also just because they require you to have a creature. Without a creature, they don't do anything. They're not particularly good. Robotics Mastery is really pushing the envelope. Now it's 5 mana. It's 4 and a blue, which is expensive, but it has Flash, so it's at instant speed. It's an aura which enchants a creature, and when it enters, it makes 2 1/1 colorless robot artifact creature tokens with flying. So it comes in, instant speed, and it makes 2 1/1s. That's already pretty good. 5 mana though. And it gives enchanted creature +2/+2. So for 5 mana at instant speed, you are getting 2 extra bodies, and you're getting 4 power and toughness worth of stats added to the board. From a cardboard theory, it's one spell that's going to add 3 pieces of cardboard, as well as 4 power and toughness. I just think that's pretty pushed. I think that's pushed enough that this, now, again, it can be blown out so easily. You remove the creature, you counter it, there's ways to deal with this, but if it enters, if you can get this spell to resolve, even if they kill the creature afterwards, you've at least made the 2 1/1s. I think this is something to keep an eye out for. I think if your opponent is ever tapped out, this card can be back-breaking in terms of it resolving. It brings a lot of power with it. Now, it's a 5 mana card. It should. But at flash speed, this is a very powerful card, I think. We'll see how it plays out. And of course, we have some activated abilities. These do happen at instant speed, although they are not necessarily instants. Something to be aware of. Both of them are in red, which is interesting. We got Stegron the Dinosaur Man, or Kefon Rage Incubator, depending on what your point of view is. This is a 4 and a red 5/4 menace dinosaur villain with the ability Dinosaur Formula. Pay 1 in a red to discard this card. Until end of turn, target creature you control gets +3/+1 and becomes a dinosaur in addition to its other types. Perfectly fine combat trick. Pay 2 mana, give something +3/+1. I don't think becoming a dinosaur is going to matter in draft. That might come up in standard. We do have dinosaurs in the format, but it is common. I don't think this will ever come up, but it's fun little flavor text, you know, dinosaur formula. This is how Stegron became the Dinosaur Man. But yeah, just something to be aware of. This is much more of a I trade my creature for yours because it's a +3/+1, but it is something still to be aware of if your opponent is in red. We've seen these tricks before. Thankfully, this one does not give first strike. Those irritate me. I always fall for those. And finally, we have Steel Wrecking Ball, 5 mana. When it enters, it deals 5 damage to target creature. Fine card. It is an artifact. You can cast it in any deck if you are desperate for a removal spell. It reminds me a lot of the 7 mana ship that dealt 10 damage, or 7 damage, whatever it was, from Edge of Eternities. But for 1 in a red, you can discard this to destroy target artifact. And there are artifact creatures throughout the set, as well as, of course, value artifacts. So this could very well come up in its own way. Finally, we are at our Be Aware spot. No, not just of Fleem's adorable goblin human scientistness, but in general of some cards that are either problematic that you should have a plan in the event, just in the back of your mind in case your opponent plays them, as well as one card that I'm particularly fond of. First things first, we have the Soul Stone, or the Terminus of Return. This is going to be interesting that we have a whole cycle of these. With Omenpaths, it's through the Omenpaths 1, which really implies that we're going to get a bunch more of these with other Marvel IPs that they can't license digitally. So, you know, we'll see how it goes. But for the Soul Stone, we have, of course, a 1 in a black Infinity Stone that's indestructible and taps to add black mana. Already one of the best colored mana rocks we've ever seen. If you're in mono black, hell, if you're in a 2-color deck, even certain 3-color decks, this is a card you want. And then we have 6 in a black. Tap, exile a creature you control to harness the Soul Stone. It gives the an infinity ability, because it's an infinity stone. It's cute. It's cute. And otherwise, it's the origin ability to harness it. These are interesting. At the beginning of your upkeep, return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. Powerful ability. The harness is a cost, but it's 7 mana, which is what we've seen for this kind of standard effect. We saw this with the Lochthwain, the cycle from Wilds of Eldraine, the black one that brings creatures back, but is also -3/-3 on it, the adventure card. You know what I'm talking about. Well, this seems problematic because your opponent just has to exile a creature, and all of a sudden they're going to be able to get stuff back every single upkeep. The only way it seems to beat this is to kill them first, and you know that is a very viable strategy, but notably in draft formats, there's always a way to handle these kinds of permanents. As you can see here from Damage Control Crew, or Selesnya Archivist, we have a 3 and a green, 3/3. When this creature enters, choose one, and it can return target creature card with mana value 4 or greater from your graveyard to your hand, or exile target artifact or enchantment. The exile on that was chosen specifically. Absolutely. They know the Soulstone is in the format. They want to make sure that you are not just SOL if your opponent casts the Soulstone. Granted, it's a mythic. It's not going to come up that often, but as we all know in draft, these problem permanents seem to come up a little more frequently than we would like. So it's good to know, it's good to understand and be aware that there are cards in the format that can remove them. Whether or not Damage Control Crew is a good card remains to be seen. I think it is going to be a good card. It's just good value when you enter. We'll see how many cards there are with mana value 4 or greater that you can actively get into your graveyard by then. But in general, understand that there is a solution and you can draft in a way that gets that solution. Similarly, we have, oh, that's really awkward. Did I not put, oh no. I'm sorry. I don't have the moth version of Web up. It's really pretty art. I recommend you check it out. That's a glitch in my system real quick. But we also have Web up here, which is the Banishing Light variant for this. 2 and a white. When this enchantment enters, exile target non-land permanent an opponent controls until this enchantment leaves the battlefield. You can always exile the Soulstone in some capacity or another. Sure, they can get it back if they remove your enchantment, but we're getting into semantics here. The idea is it is a permanent you can handle. Doc Ock, Sinister Scientist is going to be interesting though. This is 4 and a 5 for a 4/5. Human Scientist villain. It's a common. As long as there are 8 or more cards in your graveyard, Doc Ock has base power and toughness 8/8. That's pretty cool. I think that's a very cool ability. I think there's ways to deal with that. There's definitely ways to exile cards from graveyard in this. The next part's the interesting one. As long as you control another villain, Doc Ock has hexproof, meaning he can't be the target of spells or abilities your opponents control. I think that's cool. That's a little crazy. Now, there are a lot of villains in the set. I don't think there's any villain tokens or cards that make multiple villains for a singular card. In that sense, Doc Ock is just going to be problematic. Your opponent's going to play it. You're going to want to remove the 4/5, but there's that 2/1 flash Doc Ock's henchman that they cast a few turns ago. So you kill the henchman, and so now you're like, perfect, now I can kill Doc Ock. But at that point, they flash in another one in order to blank your removal spell. This is going to get annoying. You're going to have to remove other things before you can remove Doc Ock, and Doc Ock is going to slowly get more powerful as things get into the graveyard. It's a cool card design. I think it's a powerful card design. It's not impossible to beat. You can remove everything else, and again, this is a blue deck. You can always just kill them first. But it is something to be aware of. Please understand this is going to be annoying as anything when your opponent has it. Lastly, we have Shocker, Unshakable. I think this card is awesome. This is 4 and 2 red for a 5/5 human rogue villain. During your turn, Shocker has First Strike. Not much to see there. 6 mana, 5/5 with First Strike. It's just going to die to a removal spell before you have a chance to attack with your 5/5 First Striker. However, it has Vibro Shock Gauntlets. I think Shocker is so fun. I also love the flavor that when Shocker enters the battlefield, Shocker shocks. It's perfect. When Shocker enters, he deals 2 damage to target creature and 2 damage to that creature's controller. Boom, there you go. For 6 mana, you get a 5/5 First Strike, pick off a blocker, as well as deal a little damage to them. I just think it's good value. I think it's okay, it's not going to define the whole format, but it's a lot like the dragon from Edge of Eternities, where it enters and it lightning bolts. It's a lot like the discard one from Tarkir, the big red creature that enters the battlefield, and then you can activate its ability to discard a card and draw a card. That one's probably a little bit more powerful because you're drawing cards. However, it's an expensive red card that's a big body that's difficult to deal with. It's also a lot like Territorial Bruntar. Sorry, another one from Edge of Eternities, enters battlefield, and there's some kind of advantage to it. This is just a good ETB effect. It can get rid of one of their blockers in the late game. It is then a big attacker itself. I think this card's good. I'm not going to try to overhype it. I just love the flavor of it, and I do think it's underhyped right now. And so I want to bring it up to the level that it deserves. But overall, that's the Spider-Man set that's going to be coming out, as well as through the Omenpaths. I hope you're ready for your pre-release events, and I hope you're ready for some pick 2 draft. Let me know in the comments if there's any other cards that you think people should generally be aware of. What should we look at going into the draft? There's a lot less cards. It's 2/3 the size of a standard set. This is your chance to kind of get to know the cards a lot better and give you that edge in a draft environment. I hope to see you out there. Let me do the outro, you know? I do love the outro. After all, there are more games to play, strategy to analyze, and unfortunately, work to do. I'm Supreme Verdicts. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Spider-Man, Spider-Man, does whatever a spider can. Can he play Magic the Gathering? No, he can't, 'cause Omenpaths, look out. Here comes the Spider-Man.